Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jack. Thank you to my family and friends who drove near and far to get here. It's really a privilege and an honor to be nominated to further serve all of you for our great community. I'm a husband, father of 2 young boys, and a small business owner. Despite these commitments to my family and livelihood, I cannot continue to watch the bad decisions being made at the state capitol affect our community in such a negative way. If you've been observing any of the news on our state recently, to say I'm very concerned is an understatement. There are many glaring red flags threatening our standard of living and all we love about Westport and Connecticut. Having said that, I feel optimistic that not only can we fix these issues, but we can fix them by putting Westport over politics. Even though we are at a Republican caucus, our campaign will be working with both independents and Democrats. I'm a candidate that will work to improve the lives of my family and all the families in our community with sound fiscal and social policies. In these type of state and local elections, you vote for the person, not the party. The person who is the most qualified to do the job, since local and state politics is where you're the most affected on a day-to-day basis. At the end of the day, one thing is very clear from everybody I speak to. We don't need more taxes, we need more taxpayers, and we need a real, achievable economic recovery plan. I've spent the last several months researching the best practices in other states and applying it to Connecticut. I will work with leaders on both sides of the table to get this accomplished. The governor's farewell speech to the DNC, where he received tremendous applause by touting the redistribution of wealth and policies which have driven millennials, families, and seniors out of our state, is a complete opposite policy, which I stand for. My opponent, Mr. Steinberg, shockingly agrees with the governor. I think at this point, we all have had enough. I, like you, are fed up with the flawed decisions being made at the state level that negatively impact our town and have brought our state to the brink of collapse. I cannot and will not sit idly by and watch Hartford's mess continue to seep into the town that I love without a state representative who puts Westport's needs first. I've worked hard at the RTM level, but more needs to be done at the state. So, Mr. Chairman, RTC, all my friends and family, I'm here to tell you that enough is enough, and starting today, there will be somebody that is finally representing and fighting for the needs of all of Westport and Hartford. I know I got to work on that a little bit, don't I? Unfortunately, we face a $4 billion state budget crisis in just 13 months. The state of Connecticut finances will begin to crumble and will most certainly affect our wonderful way of life here in Westport. I am running to stop this. I am running to represent your needs and wants in Hartford. I am running to represent you, the Westport taxpayer in Hartford, and not the other way around. I am running to begin the hard work of reforming Connecticut's budget and end the years and years of budget crisis and tax increases that has resolved nothing. Enough is enough. My family chose Westport because this is a community that cares about preserving our top-rated schools, idyllic setting, and quality of life. I knew that in Westport, my two boys, one of whom attends Stepping Stones and the other of whom attends Greens Farms, would get a top-notch education. But now I'm worried about their future. It's fitting that I stand here before you in one of our top elementary schools. This school, like all our schools, can no longer count on state funding because Connecticut's finances are in total disarray, the result of failed leadership and bad decisions. State education funds to Westport have been cut dramatically, all while your state income taxes have been increased. Last night, I sat through a Board of Education meeting where, again, financial cuts needed to be made and terms like downsizing was mentioned. I have three words: enough is enough. And it's not just our schools that are threatened. Since 2013, Westport went from more than $3.5 million in state funding to less than $250,000 projected for 2019, and who knows how many more unfunded mandates the state will push on us. And with the state budget deficit projected at $4 billion in just 13 months, we must expect further cuts of state funding to Westport. But even worse, and hear me clearly, the chance that state expenses once paid by the state will be pushed down to towns like Westport, as Governor Malloy tried just last year with the teachers' pension plan. Westport could be forced to face millions and millions of dollars of additional expense hitting our budget as early as next year, which would increase our property taxes. Enough is enough. The issues Westport and my friends and neighbors face are clear. Westport's character, the look and feel of our town, which includes traffic issues, is under attack by a state of Connecticut regulation known as 830G. Developers could come into Westport and build large apartment buildings that skirt every P&Z regulation in Westport. Driving north on the Post Road in Westport, you could easily see how bad this regulation has affected our wonderful town, as Jimmy put it. This must stop, not because we're not in favor of affordable homes, which we are, but it must be reformed, because the law must include homes built before 1990 and shelters that we support. Why should Westport continue to be punished for being good citizens who proactively addressed this when we weren't even mandated by the state? Our town is under attack by the decisions in Hartford. Enough is enough. Westport seniors are seeing their Social Security and pensions punitively taxed and their overall cost of living continuing to rise, this forcing them to move out of the state. Our seniors are feeling the impact of the decisions in Hartford. Enough is enough. Who in this room takes Metro North to the city? Who in this room has had enough of paying more for slower trains and failing infrastructure and hearing from future taxpayers that only if our trains were faster, they would move here? Would it surprise you that Mr. Steinberg is one of the senior members on the Transportation Committee? All of us in Westport, again, are feeling the impact of the decisions in Hartford. Enough is enough. Just recently, the insolvent state of Connecticut assumed the principal payments for the city of Hartford debt as they contemplated bankruptcy. The net effect is the state of Connecticut has maxed out its credit card. Business will not stay nor relocate to Connecticut if there's not stability in the state. Enough is enough. In so many ways, in every neighborhood, in every home. Westport, despite its incredible local leadership, is feeling the impact of the state's financial crisis. I am sure you have heard a neighbor and friend speak to the decline in their home price, and things will get worse if the current failed policies continue. So can anyone look at the record of State Representative Jonathan Steinberg and say, well done? Can anyone compare our state from 8 years ago and say, keep up the good work? No. Thank goodness for our local Republican leadership that has not raised taxes, and thank you, Mr. Marpy. Would you cast a vote to a candidate that does not represent Westport's interests of protecting the character of our town from over-aggressive developers, who was quoted just last year, and I'm making this up, saying, put up or shut up? When the affordable home legislation was being discussed in Hartford? Would you cast a vote for someone who voted for party over residents for a flawed state union contract, which is the number one cause of our fiscal crisis, and that everybody, including the union members, believe they might not get paid? Would you actually cast a vote for someone who voted for raising taxes twice and begged our Governor Dan Malloy to raise taxes further? Well, if you have had enough, then let's all say, enough is enough. We will reverse this terrible trend and keep Westport the thriving town we all love and why we decided to live here in the first place and start to fix the state. Ronald Reagan said in his State of the Union address in 1984, let us be sure that those who come after will say of us that in our time we did everything that could be done. I am doing what I can and accepting your nomination for state representative because I believe I can make Connecticut and Westport better. I ran for RTM last year because I wanted to help my Greens Farms neighborhood. Since I was sworn in, I've kept my campaign promises. I've helped clean up the Sherwood Island Connector and Park and Ride. I've worked to protect historic properties. I've helped my neighbors with excessive noise issues and managing human interaction with animals. I've nagged the DOT to get new street signs and additional safety markers at one of the most dangerous intersections. And I also quickly learned that Westport government is not the problem. All roads lead to the decision makers at the state capitol. My promise is that my voice will be our voice, your voice focused on Westport. You will never need to ask again, who is our state rep and what does he do for us? Mr. Steinberg has shown a vested interest in the state workers and the needs of his party leaders over our seniors, your children, and our town. I, like you, have a vested interest in our schools and will support actual pension reform so that money is freed up for education, especially special education for kids that get shortchanged, along with the towns that support them. If we don't have the best education in Westport or in Connecticut overall, we have no chance in attracting the type of families and high-paying growth industries that will turn our state around. To that end, I will work to solve our state's financial crisis. Mr. Steinberg continues to drive seniors out of Westport by taxing estates, Social Security, and pensions. I want our seniors to stay, and relief for seniors from unfair taxes is the first piece of legislation I will write. I will immediately submit a bill to repeal the Social Security and pension tax ASAP. Mr. Steinberg says he wants to attract millennials to Connecticut. but he supports policies that are hostile to entrepreneurs, commuters, and young families. My policies are the exact opposite. I've launched a website, gregkraut.com, with a detailed economic plan that I will share with both Democrats and Republicans, with new ideas to start to fix Connecticut. Other New England states have reversed this trend and are growing again, and Connecticut can too. Mr. Steinberg thinks Westport's empty storefronts and dropping enrollment at our schools had nothing to do with the state's failed policies. They do. I will make sure Hartford supports economic growth so we can start filling those storefronts once again. We need to work together to clean up Hartford's mess and ensure that does not continue to seep into Westport. What we can't do is trust the same people who made the bad decisions to lead our state back to prosperity. There is an adage that doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, and Westporters are not insane. It is time to unlock Connecticut's greatness we once knew and elect new leadership. I'm assembling an advisory council of Westport's residents who are specialists in areas from education to transportation to labor negotiation to energy and to environment. I will draw on their ideas and expertise, as well as looking at what has worked in other states who have overcome problems just as difficult as ours. We can and will harness social capital in Westport to promote new policies that will make Connecticut strong again. In conclusion, I look forward to speaking with every one of you as your active support is critical. You know the vision. You understand the gaps and opportunities. And I will work with all of you every day so you can feel your interests are fully represented. Thank you again for your support. And in November, I am confident we will put the best team on the field because the future of Connecticut and Westport transcends political party. God bless Connecticut, and God bless our great town of Westport. Thank you.